just trying.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show those of you who aren't at the paper yet how to get there. And then also we've set up a template for you on Coggle. So I'm going to go and show you how to do that. Oh. You go ahead and Google competency. It's the very first website. It's our project website. If you look at the top, there's a page called resources. Click on that. Workshops in Malaysia. Click on that. Go all the way down to the bottom, and at the end of Monday, I do know it's on the wrong day, but at the end of Monday, there's something called the Motivational Design Handout. Click on that. You should now have about a 4-page PDF document. Okay, so again, Motivational Design Handout at the bottom, right above Tuesday. It's one of the last things in the Monday category. Has everybody found it? Yes? Awesome. All right. Then the second thing is under Tuesday, I think we're okay, there's a word, and it says Coggle. Click on that. All right. So now you have 2 tabs, right? You have the Motivational Design Handout, and you have Coggle. Right now, you all have one giant Coggle. So if you start typing in that, everyone's going to see it. But if you go to the top, in the top right-hand corner, there's a little symbol, and it looks like 2 pieces of paper. And if you click on that, it makes a new one. It makes a copy. And then you have your very own Coggle, and you can type anything you want on there, and not everyone will see it at the same time. Okay? So what we would like you to do now is take a minute, look through that paper, ideally in small groups with whoever's sitting near you, and think about your content and how can you come up with particular examples of which ways you can use these motivational elements in your course. Okay? And then you can go ahead and fill those into the Coggle. And then, of course, we're going to be looking for volunteers to share that at the end. So go ahead and get it. All right, I'm going to wander around and help anybody who needs help answer questions. And otherwise, you have some work time right now, and then we'll do some more sharing and feedback at the end. Real quick, I'm getting one question several times, so just to save us some time, I'm going to answer it right up here. If you are thinking, what exactly is going at the end of these little things? You're looking for examples that relate to your class content. So, for example, if you are trying to think about what might be something for perceptual arousal, maybe an animation that is relevant to your content. If you're talking about climate change, maybe you have a sun come up and some rain, I don't know, something like this, that would be related to your content, okay? I am looking for volunteers to share. If I get no volunteers, I will select. All right, I was able to get one volunteer. I will be coming back for the rest of you. But would you, and you can't see it. Make it bigger? All right, can we get you to say a few words about what you've created here? You can tell me where you're going and I'll move it around.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So I'm teaching modern physics, which is something that's been brought forward by Einstein. So a lot of things which is beyond our common sense. So we start with attention, a perceptual arousal. So normally I will show video showing that light is both a wave and a particle, because normally we think that light is a wave, but actually it's also a particle. And something that's, whoever in Malaysia is, I mean all over the world that everybody would like to stay young, but the thing is, if you travel at the speed of light, you can stay young. So I have simulation to prove that. Yes, it does. You can stay. You can be slim if you travel at the speed of light, no matter how fat you are. Okay. I have simulation to show that, and also simulation to show that simultaneity is not absolute, and your height is not absolute. You can be younger than your father if your father is still alive, so it's possible. And then about inquiry arousal, I use worksheets to give so that they can solve problems, and also I give them brain teaser. Can you feed a 1 meter drone in a 0.5 meter tunnel? It's possible to do that. Those are kind of examples that I use normally in my class. Okay, variability, I use different contexts, whether it's on space, whether it's on Earth, or whether it's at the nano scale. So, variability, a different representation, I use graph, I use equations, I use pictures, different representations and different level of difficulties. I use using Bloom taxonomy from the understanding right up to creation. And a different mode of presentation, sometimes I use videos, sometimes I use Java applets. So that's why I'm very concerned whether EDX can use Java applets or not. Okay, attention and then ARCs, relevance. Okay, familiarity, I use you, I, and we in the teaching materials. And the familiarity, I use familiar context. Now drone is very famous, everybody talking about it. So instead of using rocket, I use drones. So most of my examples, I use everyday, whatever that is popular for that particular year. Goal orientation in forum, I do ask learners to suggest new learning objectives so that it matches what they need. And then motive matching, topics chosen and sequenced according to learners' needs. Because sometimes what I thought is best for the students, but it's actually not what they really need. So it's up to them. And sometimes we thought that we are teaching at a particular level, but actually the student don't have the prior knowledge. So I have worksheets for them so that they make sure that they do have the prior skills or knowledge before coming to my specific topics that I would like to teach. So that's relevance, ARC, confidence. Okay, as for confidence for the learning requirement, normally I will state the learning objectives as the label for each unit so that they know that what they are going to gain by seeing that videos or whatever that I put there as units. And then I use behavioral words as label for subsections so that it's clear to them what is expected of them, and also they can assess whether they have achieved or not whatever that in that particular subsection. And the success opportunities, normally I will give just-in-time part tasks so that they have the needed skills for that particular lesson. And then I give work example because by giving work example, it will lessen their workload, their working workload, and it will make easier for them. So normally students will first learn by analogy, and then later we give them practice so that they can practice what they have learned by analogy. Then I start with simple to complex problem. As I said just now, I use Bloom taxonomy as a guide to design my questions. And I have quizzes for them to do. Basically, the quizzes are mostly on conceptual aspects so that I would like to ensure that they really know what this is all about and then doing the practice later on using worksheets. Personal control, they can start anywhere and anytime because it's in the Moodle. And then next, time for quizzes, practice exercise decided by the learners themselves. So it's up to them. They are responsible for their learning. And then satisfaction, natural consequences. So I have simulation, Java applets, and Flash to test out whatever prediction that they have, whether, to stay young or to be slim when you travel at the speed of light. Positive consequences, marks for correct answer, and number of badges that they can get, that they can accumulate, and then giving meaningful feedback in forums, and also for their quizzes. Equity, quizzes, matches, learning objectives. This is very, very important. We shouldn't just do quiz out of our head, but not matches it with the objectives. And then, of course, very important is the congruency between our content and our learning objective. If our objectives say calculate, then the content must say calculate. We cannot have the content say, explaining something, but the learning objectives is calculating something. So it's very important for the congruency between content and learning objective. That's all.
That was amazing and very detailed. Thank you very much. Do we have one more volunteer? One more, please. Do we have any questions or general comments? Yay! All right.
Okay, so the subject matter that we are looking at is about learning theories. And here we use the ARC-Scalar model to make sure that our, our lesson is according to the motivational theory. For the attention on perceptual arousal, we start off with the video to arouse them perceptually on the learning theory, which is about 2 to 3 minutes that we allot the time, such as relating to the brain. And one of our examples here is the movement of a lizard related to learning theory. And people will be asking, like, the inquiry mind wants to know, whereby what has a lizard got to do with learning theories? So we spark the interest of the students themselves out of the box to relate that back to a learning theory. Then for the inquiry arousal, we will ask questions based on the video by embedding it throughout the video itself by asking questions in there. On variability, we use different learning strategies such as questioning and answering, and also perhaps some kind of a discussion. We also have levels of difficulty of the questioning by going from simple to complex questions. We use different media such as audio clip, animation, or in fact, reading materials itself can be also our resources on learning theory. For our relevance, on familiarity, we have to select videos which is related to the normal university setting or to the local context of what the students are familiar with. For example, if we are talking about, let's say, in the market, so they need to make sure, we must ascertain that the market is within the Malaysian context, not to other places. For goal orientation, activities need to be geared towards the learning outcome or goal, and we state our goal somewhere else, up there. And the motive matching is by having group work, pairing them according to their ability or their learning styles, whereby we have a prerequisite, or rather we have a profile of the students according to their achievement and maybe like how they learn, their preferred learning style. On ARC, confidence. Confidence, for the learning requirement, we specify the learning outcome of the course, which is able to differentiate the 3 learning theories. In our case, we use the behaviorist, cognitivist, as well as the constructivist. And if ask them to also evaluate, they are able to evaluate the pros and cons of the learning theory, depending on which theory they, to differentiate them. And as a prerequisite also, we test them on their prior knowledge, not a formal test, but maybe a short quiz or a very, it's more of, how do we say it? We can use Kahoot in class and so on to test on what they learned before that. The other thing is also to inform at the beginning of the class itself, what are the tasks and assignment that is required of them. For example, they have maybe 5 tasks to complete or 3 tasks, so that they know how to, at the end of it, the requirement of the class itself, they are familiar with that. As far as success opportunities, we have to introduce the easier concepts first to more complex ideas. For example, we start with sinus operant conditioning and move towards cognitivism to connect them from the easier to how the paradigm changes. For personal control, we give them ample time for activities to be completed, or ask them to, how do I say this? Since this is going to be like a MOOC kind of thing, then we have like a deadline, but not immediate. Create a menu for the students to skip to easier topics, so the ones that are ahead of the class, they can skip the introduction, or they can choose whichever topics, subtopics, subsections that they are not as familiar or not as, they don't have the clear understanding on that. The last part, which is the S, which is satisfaction, on natural consequences, we have to state such that by fulfilling the criteria, they will get the grades specified. For example, if it is an A, 90 above, a B is 80 above, and so on and so forth, we can give them virtual awards like badges or stars and maybe or certificates. Because I have one of our staff, our lecturers, they do give virtual certificates, although it is a bit weird, but somehow certificates, students like them. Okay, so it doesn't have to be the real concrete chocolates and whatnot. Okay. For positive consequences, we give them meaningful, constructive feedback to improve their understanding and direct them to more resources or clarify their understanding by giving simpler examples. The other part of positive consequence, we allow students to like the assignment, which is shared, because I know some do not like to share the assignments of the students, but here we have peer evaluation or peer assessment, whereby students can give a star to the favorite assignment that is, that is being shared. For equity, the goals for each theory must have the same number of activities or the same level of difficulties, such that there's equal balance among what we are, we are teaching. The other one is the coherence of goals and content. So for each learning theory, we'll have the same number of videos or tasks and exercises, so that they have equal understanding of the various theories that we try to teach them. Okay, with that, thank you very much from our group. Okay.
Thank you for not being detailed. That was quite impressive.
I think we have 7 minutes, so that's not enough for another, but for another volunteer. So, yeah, thank you. I think so, we saw two, amazing, very good examples for samples of ideas for motivating participants, learners. And yes, I hope you could take some ideas from instructional design, from this decision-oriented instructional design model at home, and perhaps I hope at least some parts will be useful for your everyday work. So thank you for your attention again, and so we have a couple of minutes earlier going into the tea break. Thank you.